Welcome to this latest edition of the Ril Dil Podcast on this Friday, February 22nd, 2019. I'm your host, Ril Dil Quinn, talking about the world, discussing the world of sports and pop culture. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at William Gerald or go to Instagram account at Ril Gerald Quinn. We are all over the place. We're at iTunes.apple.com, Real Deal Podcast. Of course, we are streaming live here on my YouTube channel, Real Deal Podcast. We are approaching 1,000 subscribers. Thank you for all your support and listeners and views and support. I definitely appreciate it. I definitely appreciate all the support that you've given me from that standpoint. It is. This has been a week where if you do what I do, if you are somebody who creates content or somebody who follows sports and pop culture, it's like it is. It's Thanksgiving all over again. It's Thanksgiving like it's been Thanksgiving every day. With what's been going on, I don't even frankly know where to begin. Like where Like I trust me, when this program is over, when this podcast is over, there are gonna be people who don't make the cut. There are gonna be some stories. There are gonna be some public figures, some world famous figures that just don't make the cut. That's how this has been the week of discontent. This has been the weeks of just stuff that is just it has been for me again. I can't. February. Think about February is one of the deadest sports month, sports months in the entire year. Okay, from a sports standpoint, and from a pop culture standpoint, movies. I know the Oscars are coming up Sunday, but in terms of movies, music, I mean, I haven't listened to the Offset's new CD yet, but for the up until this point, nothing worthwhile to me that came out in 2019. Like I was still on 2018 stuff as far as music goes. So again, this week is one of the reasons why I do what I do. It's the gift that keeps on giving and has been given the entire week. We're gonna begin with the NBA and with Zion Williamson, who will be the number one pick in the draft come June. Best player in the country, most valuable player in the country, without question, and suffered a just unfortunate injury against North Carolina, of course, on Wednesday night, as Duke fell to North Carolina 88-72. And I'll be honest with you, as a North Carolina fan, as you see here, uh, he gets hurt 36 seconds into the game, and it took all the life out of the game. I mean, it took all the juice out of the game. The game, I couldn't even enjoy the game. Let me be honest with you, I couldn't even enjoy the game. Because first of all, I love, even as a North Carolina fan, I love watching Zion Williamson play. He's a generational talent. He is a guy that can do everything. He does not get nowhere near the amount of credit for these subtle aspects of his game, the fundamental parts of his game that he does at a high level. Everybody's just looking at the dunks, looking at his physical size and what have you, the athleticism. But this guy can do everything. So when he leaves the game, it just is the game was just it was dead after that. It was like okay, cool, North Carolina. Of course, I was rooting for North Carolina. They won. They took care of business. Give them credit. Duke still has talent outside Zion Williamson with Barrett and Cam Reddish and Ty Jones as well. Those three guys, two of those, Reddish and Barrett will be lottery picks, maybe even top five picks, more likely top five, top six picks. Jones will be a late first round pick. So there's still plenty of talent there. But Zion Williamson is the straw that stirs the drink. And most of the conversation following the game was, well, Zion should, shut it down and, has millions of dollars on the line and blah, 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 blah. Here's what I'll say about that. He's playing for Duke. He has a chance to win a national championship. It's a mild knee sprain. It is probably the mildest of knee injuries that you can possibly have. Grade one knee sprain, no ligament damage from a standpoint of an ACL or even MCL. Okay, no structural damage whatsoever. It is probably a 2 week injury. Maybe I'm thinking more than likely they'll sit him till the NCAA tournament. Because frankly, it doesn't matter whether Duke is a 1 or 2 seed. They're that talented. If they're healthy, they're the team to beat. They're going to be the favorites to win the championship. Not by a lot. They're not on. They're not at this level of say UNLV '91 or even Duke back in '99. They're not unbeatable, or Kentucky was in 2012, and people thought they were in 2015. They're not on that level. They're not a dominant team. They can be. Listen. You saw in that game. They are a mediocre 3 point shooting team, mediocre at shooting the three. So that is something that could definitely haunt them in a NCAA tournament game, where they were healthy or not. But the idea that Williamson should just shut it down and get ready for the draft to protect his future is really, I think, it's a reflection of our priorities as a society, as far as this obsession with money and thinking that money is the end all be all. And also, just it's just not. If you look at the history of basketball or even sports in general in recent memory, give me the guy who has had a career-threatening injury in college and that affected his pro career or has cost him millions moving forward in the professional ranks. Give me that guy, because I can give you guys that have gotten hurt in college and have still been top picks and have still made tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. Like Kenyon Martin broke his leg in his conference tournament game, first round of his conference tournament game in 2000. Cincinnati was a legit was going to be the favorites to win a national championship that year. He didn't play in the NCAA tournament. He ended up being a number one pick in the draft, and over the course of his career, played 15 years and made $113 million. Okay, Joel Embiid didn't play his first 2 years, was still drafted top five, top three pick. Okay, and is going to make in excess when his career is over. It's going to probably will make close to $200 million, if not more. All right. Blake Griffin broke his kneecap before the season started in preseason, a preseason game, I believe, back in 2009. Didn't play the first year. Has made, signed max contracts. Now, again, has been oft injured, but it didn't keep him from getting his money. So, again, this whole idea where, shut it down, protect yourself, like, knock it off. Let's listen. If he's healthy, he should play. Bottom line, if he's healthy, he should play. You want to see how he can recover from an injury. You want to see, he's going over the course of your NBA career. You're going to have to play through. You're going to have to play through some pain, arthritis, soreness, fatigue, all types of shit that you're going to play through over the course of your NBA career. It's just the reality of the rigors of an 82 game schedule, playoffs, preseason. If he might play in the Olympics, things of that nature, training. So, again, this guy is going to get his money. He's going to get his money. There's nothing that's going to stop him from getting his money. Again, show me the player that has suffered the career-ending injury in college, and it cost them millions and millions of dollars. Show me that player. In football as well. Please, show me that player. Now, we've seen guys in the NFL drop because of off-the-field stuff and reputation and things of that nature. We've seen that cost guys millions of dollars, but not injuries. So I think Zion should play if he's healthy. and I think he will play. I absolutely think I think he'll be back. I'm guessing again. I'm guessing this is my opinion that he'll be back uh, for the ACC tournament. I think he'll be back for the ACC tournament, not the NCAA tournament, for the ACC tournament. To be honest with you, still a couple weeks off. Again, mild knee sprain. Anytime when they say day to day, that means the injury is not like that. That means it is a minor injury. So you had that going on as far as Duke. Again, the game to me, I don't know what you could take out of the game. North Carolina, if you're North Carolina, you take the win on the road and keep it moving. That was not Duke's real team. We understand that. The ACC race should be interesting moving forward. You have three teams: Duke, North Carolina, and Virginia, who are all at 11-2, and all have a legit chance at number one seed. If you look at the history, recent memory, the last I think the last 16 years, the team that has won the ACC regular season has been at number one seed. I think the last time an ACC team won the regular season and was not at number one seed was 2003 Wake Forest, and they were a number two seed. So if you win the ACC regular season, there's nine, you're almost guaranteed, regardless of what happens in the ACC tournament, you're almost guaranteed to be a number one seed. And there have been a lot of times where even depending on who won the ACC tournament, where a second team could possibly get a number one seed. So you can see a situation where, you know, let's say Virginia wins the ACC regular season, and North Carolina wins the ACC tournament, or Duke wins the ACC tournament. There's a possibility that the ACC can have two number one seeds. But again, and a couple things. The thing that made me laugh too about the situation was this attack on Nike. Like Nike, Nike all of a sudden has a horrible shoe. Now, if you're Paul George, you absolutely call Nike. You absolutely reach out to Zion and say what happened. Now, information came out today or last night that he had been wearing the same shoe for a month or a couple months, which in today's NBA or in today's landscape is almost unheard of. I mean, guys, even college kids, switch up sneakers by week, by game. Shoes just aren't built like that. Like these shoes are kind of like these. It's one thing for me to wear a shoe walking somewhere, but playing basketball at that level, they just shoes. These shoes are built like sports cars. I mean, they look great, but you can't go with them. You can't stretch them out too long. A lot of NBA guys change the shoe by the game. Okay, so you hear that. So that kind of explains the shoe malfunction of him just blowing up his shoe. Something that frankly, I've never seen before on a court in a long time. So these attacks on Nike. I mean, it's when it's lonely at the top. I mean, when you are clearly the standard, the best, people are going to come at you. Puma had a nerve to come at Nike, which I don't understand. Vince Carter left Puma to go sign with Nike based on the quality of the shoe. It wasn't. It was more to do. It was just as much to do with how bad Puma was compared to how good Nike was, for the reason in terms of the reason why Vince Carter left Puma. So for Puma to come at Nike, I can understand. I can understand if Adidas came at Nike. Like Adidas is actually close to Nike as far as competition, or Under Armour, but Puma, really? Who's wearing Pumas in 2019? Like who really is wearing Pumas in 2019? So you had that going on. Again, with college basketball, still a couple weeks left. The number one seeds still have yet to be decided. I think right now, I think Tennessee is a lock to be a number one. I think Tennessee and Gonzaga are locks to be number one. Duke, Virginia, Kentucky, North Carolina, Michigan, I think are fighting for those other two number one spots. That's where I think you're at now. North Carolina has a tough game tomorrow following the Duke game, which will be a classic, which shouldn't be a letdown considering how talented Florida State is and considering how well Florida State has played. I think they've won 8 straight in conference, and we know how athletic and how long the length they have as far as number of guys over 6'8", 6'9", 6'10". That'll be a tough game in Chapel Hill come tomorrow, but I think the final number one seeds are wide open. I think Tennessee and Gonzaga basically have two number one seeds up for grabs. So we'll see what happens. See what happens with that in regards to the NCAA. But again, if you are Zion Williamson, you absolutely, if you're healthy, you absolutely play. To me, it's simple. I wouldn't be listening to anybody else. Twitter, I'm sure he won't. Duke, Krzyzewski will absolutely do. They're not going to risk his even come close to risking his future or possible second injury with playing him if he were not completely out. I mean, I expect him to play in a couple weeks. As far as the NBA goes, you had two great games last night in regards to the NBA. Before I even get to that, though, I want to talk about Kyrie Irving for a second. Kyrie Irving came out, did an interview with Rachel Nichols, just basically talking about or reiterating what he's been complaining about for basically the last month or so, a couple weeks or so, in regards to the young players on Boston, and it's just been a difficult year, and how challenging, and trying to mix in the young guys with some of the veteran players, and the thing about Kyrie Irving and the thing about leadership, and I look at what's going on with Kyrie. You have a guy who, one of the most talented players in the league, hit one of the most important shots in recent NBA history, Game 7, 2016 NBA Finals. Fearless, legit top 10 guy, but right now, as we stand in 2019, February 22nd, is an awful leader. And if you're in that Boston locker room, there's no way in the world that you are following Kyrie Irving. I've yet to hear Kyrie Irving point the finger at himself. I've yet to hear Kyrie Irving makes it seem like he's been in Boston for 10 years. Dude, you just got to Boston. Really, this is your first full year with the Celtics, because last year you were injured. Didn't play in the playoffs. The team got to the Eastern Conference Finals Game 7 against LeBron James, and came within 2.5 to 3 minutes of going to the finals without you. Okay, why? If I'm Jason Tatum, if I'm any of these other young players, why would I listen to Kyrie Irving about leadership? Like, why? Why? Like, because before you won the championship with LeBron, before you started going to the finals when LeBron got to Cleveland, you were on one of the worst teams in the league. Okay? You were on one of the worst teams in basketball, period. So I don't understand why I would listen to you if I'm playing for ball. Why I would follow you, especially when time after time you've called me out. You've called me out through the media. So again, if you're Jason Tatum, if you are Jaylen Brown, Terry Rozier, to a lesser extent, Marcus Smart, Forget about Al Horford's a veteran, so he does. He's doing his own thing, and Al Horford is just one of these quiet guys. Quiet, just handles his business anyway. But if I'm one of these young players, especially I'm talking Tatum and Brown in particular, why am I listening to Kyrie? Why would I follow Kyrie Irving? And there's something to be, listen, there's something about leadership that just goes beyond skill set. Like, if you're not, like, I heard somebody say this one time, and I forgot who said it, but it was definitely something that I took note of. You're not a leader if no one's willing to follow you. So I don't care if no one's willing to follow you, you're not a leader. I guess we can go through sports, we can go through corporations, we can go through we want to go through the school system. But if people are not willing to follow you, you are not a leader of people in the NBA, of men. And right now, I think for Boston, they have all the talent in the world. I don't want to hear about having too many players. I don't want to hear about the pieces don't fit. Their major problem right now, their number one problem, is a crisis of leadership. That's the number one problem. Your coach can't be a leader. I don't care how great your coach is. And again, Brad Stevens is a legit top coach. I'm not putting him at this level of, you know, Popovich and Rick Carlisle and some of those coaches like that. No, he's not there yet. But he's above average coach who you would want coaching your team if you had a franchise in the NBA. But your coach can't be a leader in the NBA. It has to come from the player. And, the leadership doesn't necessarily have to be the best player. You prefer it to be the best player, but it doesn't have to necessarily be the best player. Derek Fisher was a leader on the Laker teams, along with Shaq and Kobe to a lesser extent. And especially, they respected it. Both Shaq and Kobe both respected Derek Fisher, and he wasn't. He was a role player who made big shots, but still was a role player. But it's something to be said. Like, having the most talent, being a great player, having all the skills in the world, it does not equate to leadership. It's just something about being a leader that goes beyond what you can do on the floor in terms of being in terms of professional athletes and athletics. But leadership can take you, in case in point, Derek Jeter and Mark Messier. It can elevate you to another level if you're perceived to be, and if you are a transcendent leader. Like, Derek Jeter is a Hall of Fame player with his stats, but with his leadership, that made him a New York icon. Mark Messier, all-time great in the NHL player without question, but with his leadership, I became an NHL icon and one of the greatest players of all time. Considered to be one of the greatest leaders in the history of the NHL. Won 2 Stanley Cups without Wayne Gretzky. One in New York. Okay. Toughest sports market in the country. Number one sports market in the country. So I guess right now Kyrie is not even close. He's not even approaching leadership. Right now, he's not. And if you're moving forward with that, Boston's going to have a lot of decisions to make at the end of the season, depending on what transpires in the postseason. Now they played a good game last night. That game could have went either way. That was a great game. That was a playoff type game against Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee right now. Normally, I don't get excited about teams that have big regular seasons that don't have playoff pedigree, but Milwaukee is different because they have the MVP of the league right now, and they have a guy, frankly, that is unstoppable. And they have a guy who has a throwback mentality. He has a mentality of a Kobe Bryant. He has a killer mentality. He's not trying to be friendly. He doesn't care about the press. He doesn't care about people who like players liking him. This guy wants to win a championship. This guy has you talk about leadership. Talk about leadership. The Greek freak is a leader. I play hard every night. I'm building up my teammates. I'm unselfish. I'm not pointing fingers. You're gonna follow me with my actions. Okay. And Kyrie's just not there yet. Like even when Kobe used to call out people, I don't think Kobe would call out players by name through the media. Kobe was the type that led through fear. Kobe would go in the locker room and tell you in your face, like, yo, you're fucking up. Jordan Farmer, you're fucking up. Andrew Bynum, you're playing. Get a rebound. Pal, I need more out of you. Kobe Bryant was the type that even if he said it through the press, if it came out in the press, that he's already had the conversation in the locker room with the dude. I mean, that's just the way it is. He led through fear. He led through aggression. That was the type of leader he was. And it worked. They went to 3 straight finals, won back-to-back championships. So, I don't know. Again, I don't know if Kyrie Irving, I'm not going to use this generational. I don't think it's a generational thing. I'm not going to say millennial, point to that stuff like that. I just feel like he, I feel like he's picked up some habits from LeBron and they're not LeBron's fault. I get a sense that he thinks that he's on that level when he clearly is. I feel like he thinks that he can do things or say things that are LeBron like that he is not in a position to do or to say. Like LeBron, and I haven't agreed with everything LeBron has done as a leader. Bottom line is he made other players better. Players, for the most part, flourished, around him. Role players. I know guys like Wade and Bosh and Kevin Love had to sacrifice playing with him, but for the most part, guys flourished playing with LeBron James. And I think that Kyrie Irving thinks that he has that type of cachet, or thinks that he should have that type of cachet within that locker room. And nah, those players, listen, those players are not dumb. They know the only reason you went to the finals is because you were with LeBron James. They know that before LeBron James got to Cleveland, team, you were a stats guy, you were a numbers guy on awful teams. They know this. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals without you. Like it's one thing. Think about it. If Boston, let's say Boston wouldn't have made the playoffs last year. So if Boston doesn't make the playoffs, and then Kyrie comes back and like, look, I won a championship. I've been to 4. I've been to 3 straight finals. I know what it takes. Maybe it carries more weight because you guys missed the playoffs last year. But the fact that we were within a eyelash of the NBA Finals is like, dude, we know what you bring to the table, but you're not the end all be all of this team. Not by a long shot. Now, Kyrie is their best player, without question. And I think for the most part, I haven't had a major problem. Now, last night he was like 9 for 27. He took some bad shots. He hit some big shots. He made some big, and we know he can make big shots. But his on the court performance, you can't question for the most part this year. He's played at an All NBA level, All-Star team, but this stuff and this constant talking about talking to the press about what's going on within that team, the young guys, the idea that you're blaming the media for splitting the locker room, which to me is insane. There's no way that the media should be able to have any effect on what goes on, what transpires in a locker room situation in any pro sport. And you're relying on the media. If the media is dictating or having any effect on what goes on in your locker room, then you don't have a franchise. You don't have a locker room. Your locker room is fractured, and you're done before you're finished. There's no way you compete for a championship. You allow the media to dictate what happens in your locker room. Staying on that theme of leadership, Ben Roethlisberger, right, comes out. Kevin Colbert comes out with the quote, and I'll pull it up here real quick in regards to Ben Roethlisberger. Um, and now, again, I'm not excusing Antonio Brown by any stretch of the imagination. Antonio Brown, I wouldn't want him on my team, despite all his talent, despite the fact that he arguably is the best receiver in football. But the idea, I understand now more than ever why Pittsburgh has underachieved for the better part of the last decade, despite having as much talent as any team in the league. Because you have a general manager in Kevin Colbert who basically said, who not basically said, Ben Roethlisberger has 52 kids under him. And here's a quote right here. Colbert said, among other things, that Roethlisberger has 52 kids under him, and that if our players were smart, they listen to him when he calls them out. So then, of course, today, classic backtrack. Colbert said that his point was that there was tremendous value in what Roethlisberger has to say, and not to belittle others, on the roster. Like, okay, you just called 52 other grown men kids. A roster that includes some of the most talented players in the league, Pro Bowlers, All Pro guys, up and down the board, and you understand where Antonio Brown was coming from when he says that Roethlisberger had like a owner mentality per se. Now that doesn't excuse Antonio Brown quitting on his team multiple times. Apparently last year, 3 times he apparently went AWOL, and that doesn't excuse some of Antonio Brown's antics and the fact that he's a me first player, great player, but is a stats guy, me first player. Doesn't excuse that aspect of this story. But the bottom line is, you're empowering a guy. First of all, you don't need to empower the quarterback, a Hall of Fame quarterback. Like, you don't have to say that this is his team. Anybody who's in that locker room, who's been with that franchise for the better part of Roethlisberger's tenure, knows that Roethlisberger has been the most important Steeler, basically since I want to say 2006, 2005. His rookie year, that was a great defensive team, great running game, great defense. They basically carried him. But basically, for the better part of 12 or 13 years, Roethlisberger has been by far and away the most important Steeler in that franchise. He's the quarterback, and he's a Hall of Fame. He will be a Hall of Fame quarterback. But in the last, Roethlisberger, really, you look at his last 4 or 5 years, with the exception of 2014, he had a big year, was second team All-Pro in Pro Football Focus. He's been barely above average. He's not. He's no longer a top quarterback. Like, he's legitimately, he's on that fringe of middle of the pack, to be honest with you. I would say he's an upper echelon. Maybe he's top 12, barely top 10. Like, there was a time, Roethlisberger was a legit top 5 quarterback, the better part of 5 to 6, for the better part of a 5 to 7 year period. He's not that dude anymore. So, if you're in that locker room, those guys know that he's not that dude anymore. So you're telling me I'm supposed to kiss his ass, and you're calling me a kid? Think about somebody in your organization, your superiors, addressing you as a kid. A kid. So Kevin Colbert basically saying we have one man and 52 kids. And there's no reason for him to kiss Ben Roethlisberger's ass. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger's not going to demand a trade. He's not going to retire. Yeah, I mean, he was talking that nonsense a couple years ago. He's not retiring anytime soon. He's a football player who loves to play football. I don't care what he says. He loves. Roethlisberger is the type of guy that he loves the action. He loves being Ben Roethlisberger. He loves being the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He loves for us to talk about him. He loves all that. He's a clear diva. He's not walking away from this. All this attention, being a quarterback of one of the most storied franchises in football, maybe in all the sports. No, you're going to carry him you're going to drag him off the field, or he'll be, or the only time either he will go out injured or Pittsburgh will cut him because of his performance. It's not walking away when he can still play at a relatively high level. So again, I see now why that team is underachieved. It's just, again, similar to where the Celtics are right now. All the talent in the world, poor leadership. Poor leadership within the locker room. And again, you can blame Mike Tomlin if you want to. You can blame Mike Tomlin if he has to take some of the blame. But the bottom line is, the players drive the locker room ultimately. And more times than not, the best players drive the locker room. So either they're going to drive it in the direction, say, Peyton Manning did all those years with the Colts and even with the Broncos, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, those guys for the most part, with the consistency and not hearing too much nonsense for the most part. I know Aaron Rodgers recently, but for the most part, you didn't hear that stuff. You didn't hear garbage coming out of Green Bay, Indianapolis, or New England within the locker room. You didn't hear that type of stuff. They're going to drive it that way, or they'll drive it the way that Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. Think about that. They're three best players. Ever since Pittsburgh became a offensive dictated team, being led by those three guys, they have done nothing but underachieve. When they were led by Palomalu, guys like that, some of the great offensive linemen they had, Joey Porter, James Harrison, when they were led by those guys, they were going to AFC championships, they were going to Super Bowls, they won a Super Bowl. It was a different type of mentality and a different type of leadership. As soon as the offensive guys took over, and it kind of coincided with the NFL being more offensive. So if I'm throwing for 5,000 yards, or if I'm Antonio Brown, I have a season where I catch 120 passes, 1,700 yards. That empowers me that much more, because look at my numbers. No one cares about your interceptions or tackles for a loss. Nobody cares about those stats, or pancake blocks. So it kind of was a perfect storm for those offensive guys that Pittsburgh have to take over the locker room and frankly just underachieve. And that's what's happened. And it's happened, when you look back at this, now Green Bay has underachieved as well, but remember, Green Bay, they have one Hall of Fame player that's guaranteed that they've had on terms of the offensive end. Peppers probably will get in, though Peppers is not a career Packer. Green Bay, Pittsburgh, Le'Veon Bell, Hall of Fame talent. If he stays healthy, he has a chance to get there. Roethlisberger will without question be there. And Antonio Brown will be in the Hall of Fame someday. So, and they've always had above average tight ends as well, always, and great second receivers, Mike Wallace, Juju Smith-Schuster right now. So for the talent that they've had to make, I haven't been to a Super Bowl since 2011, and haven't won one since the 2008 season. This, this thing with Roethlisberger and how he's been empowered is one of the major reasons why that team has been in its current state. And as of right now, I think they're headed. I think Pittsburgh is headed to some dark days. To be honest with you, I think that I think frankly, the door might be shut on their in terms of their championship window. Sticking with the NFL, um, this story was not on my docket before I originally. I pretty much had what I was going to say on the podcast not set in stone, but pretty much late Wednesday, early Thursday, and you, I got the ESPN app on my phone, and something pops up about Robert Kraft. All of a sudden, Robert Kraft, you know, wanted for soliciting, has a warrant for his arrest for soliciting a prostitute, and you're like, what, what, like, you're not shocked, but it's like, just this dude just won, was the owner of a team that just won their sixth Super Bowl in 18 years, and I look at this story, 77-year-old man has everything, money, power, fame, everything, running the crown jewel franchise of sports right now, and it's not enough. It's not enough. And on top of it, dating a 39-year-old girlfriend, and still found a way to put himself in this position, and it's nothing but greed. It's nothing but greed. Like, cause dude, let's be honest. If you wasn't worth $6 billion, no 30-year-old or even 40-year-old would look at you. If you're not worth $6 billion, and to me, I'm like thinking to myself, like, okay, first of all, you're too old to be. You're clearly not hip to what's going on because you're old. You're 77 years old. So apparently, in the massage parlor that he was in, it was under weeks and months of violence, um, sex trafficking, things of that nature, undercover, bunch of cameras. The block was hot, to put it lightly. The block was hot. And a 77-year-old owner of an NFL team is not going to know that the block is hot when it comes to the streets. That's not their element. It's not what they get paid. They don't get paid to know when the block is hot when it comes to stuff like that. It's just not. It's not going to happen. So put yourself in that position. You cheat. You cheat. Whatever. Okay, cool. We've heard that story before. You couldn't go to your 39-year-old girlfriend and be like, yo, I want to try some new shit. Because his girl has younger friends in their 30s. And like you're telling me that she wouldn't be like, okay, sure, Rob, I'll call a couple of my girls and somebody would be down. You want to have a threesome? But it's greed. It's greed. It's greed. It's not enough. It's not enough being a six-time Super Bowl champion. It's not enough being probably the most powerful owner in the NFL. It's not enough having a franchise that is valued, the second most valuable franchise behind the Cowboys. I want to say probably at least $2 or $3 billion, if not more than that. probably 2 billion. It's not enough. It's not enough. And you know, dude, you're on camera. Is at this point it's just like, look, it should be, I'm sorry. I apologize to the Patriot franchise. I mean, come on, man. Come on. Like at this point, it's the damage is done, and it's just greed. It's pure greed. It wasn't enough to have a 39-year-old. He has a 39-year-old girlfriend. Robert Kraft is 77, going on 110 in terms of how he looks. I don't know what kind of shape he's. I don't know what kind. He move. It seems like he's moving well. He was dancing with Cardi B, so he's probably in decent shape. Probably in decent shape, but he looks. He remind me of Bernie Sanders. Like they're like the two of the most oldest looking people, like in terms of you think they're actually in the mid to late 70s, but they look like they can pass for somebody who's in their late 90s. And Robert Kraft, I thought Robert Kraft was 95, 90 years old. I looked at he's only 77. Like damn, he's old. He looks old. So he has a 39-year-old girlfriend. It's like I don't know, man. I feel like you could have just had her call some of her girls and y'all, whatever you wanted to do, you wanted to spice up the relationship, you wanted to go threesome, foursome, whatever. I don't know. I don't know how he gets down, but definitely not a good look getting caught in a massage parlor. And I'm telling you right now, you know who the happiest man is right now in the NFL, from an NFL standpoint? The happiest man is Roger Goodell. Now, Roger Goodell will not publicly bash Kraft. He will not publicly go after him. He will have Kraft under his thumb privately. Under his thumb privately. And we don't know how it's going to come out, but it will, trust me. Roger Goodell right now is smiling. Because it's not about, it doesn't, the embarrassment, well, the league is embarrassed. Listen, the NFL has murderers. Come on. We're talking, Kareem Hunt just physically abused, beat up a woman, punched it. Come on, Ray Rice. The NFL has murderers, guys who should be locked up right now. They're embarrassment part from that standpoint of off the field stuff. Doesn't even matter anymore to the NFL. It really doesn't. This image and it's a bunch of garbage. They don't care about their image from that standpoint. If you have talent, players have talent, they're going to be able to come back. Kareem Hunt's going to be playing this year. He's not going to serve a major suspension. Maybe the first 4 games, 5 games. He's playing in 2019. So Robert Goodell doesn't care about that. But Goodell cares about his power. And to have power over the guy who is the most powerful owner in the NFL, that is priceless to a Roger Goodell. It's absolutely priceless. So I think right now that, Roger Goodell is somewhere actually just smiling that this happened. I mean, he's smiling that this happened. Trust me. He has Kraft dead to rights. Dead to rights. So, again, I don't even expect a suspension. Jim Irsay got a suspension. I think Jim Irsay got suspended 6 games a couple years back for the drug charges. I don't even think Kraft will even be suspended or even publicly fined. I think the fine will be private. I think Kraft will not. I'll predict it here on February 22nd. Robert Kraft will not be suspended whatsoever. He won't be suspended. There will be no loss of draft picks, none of that stuff. The punishment will be private between he and Roger Goodell in some form or fashion, and it'll be something that will be that we may not recognize until a year later, 2 years later, something like that. But he has won, as of right now, Roger Goodell has won over Robert Kraft without question. Is, trust me. Um, a tragic story happening with in regards to shifting back to college basketball. In regards to Jim Boeheim, he of course accidentally ran over a pedestrian, um, and killed the man. And this story, something like this happens, and it's like, again, no alcohol involved. It was just a pure accident. And I thought about this because I'm thinking, like, you know, Jim Boeheim is 74 years old, right? And I've always heard that you've heard this from people from all walks of life, police, military, people in general, that there's nothing like taking another life. Like that is just, it is something that you, and the guy's name was Jorge Jimenez, 51 years old. Um, that's just something that you just can't, that you'll take to your grave. And I guess I'm thinking to myself, well, if I took a life through self defense, that would be different than, a lot different than this situation. Now again, something, maybe I'll still do therapy. Maybe you talk to people. Maybe you still go through those natural channels to try to deal with. You, of course, you're never gonna forget it. But to accidentally kill someone at the age of 74, and have to live with that for however many days you have left on this earth. I couldn't imagine it. Because remember, you're 74 years old. At that point, when you're 74, when you get, 60, 70, when you get in that part of life, those are supposed to be the quote unquote golden years. You're reflecting on your life, accomplishments, maybe things that you could have done differently, grandkids, things of that nature. Just if you're Jim Boeheim, you have to live with that for however many days you have left on this earth. And that is something that is just that I would not wish upon anybody, not my worst enemy, no one. And it's something, Boeheim. We all know, of course, what type of coach he is. He's a Hall of Fame coach. He's a great coach, not a good coach. He's a great coach. And again, 74 years old, taking a life, and it's just one of those things that, you, again, to have to deal with that at that age and at that stage of your life is just something that I just couldn't, it's unimaginable. And, of course, thoughts and prayers go out to the family, condolences go out to the Jimenez family, losing, got a man at 51. And but it'll be very interesting to see if this is Boeheim's last year. I think, this something like this happens. I think, does Boeheim say, you know what, I'm just step aside from coaching and just enjoy the rest of my life, enjoy what I have. Like, I know I love coaching, but um, there's just things that are more important, that are just more important than coaching. Maybe I just want to spend more time with my family. Maybe I think I believe he does have grandkids. Um, like this is something that will clearly change your life. Something that will clearly change your life. So again, condolences, thoughts, prayers go out to him and his family, Boeheim family. I mean, he has to deal with that as well for the rest of his life. Um, so that was a situation that you saw, that I heard, that when that came up, it was just like whoa, like this is something that, this is this goes, it's one thing to take a life, it's another thing to take a life. And again, I think it's a major difference between what happened with Boeheim and say killing somebody for he's trying broke into your house or trying to attack your family, something of that nature, where you feel like where you're in a position where you just have no choice but to act. Um, None of them are appealing, as we all know, but something that he's gonna have to live with for for however long he's on this earth. Um, Speaking of living with something, a couple weeks ago, or about a month ago, the Jussie Smollett case came out with the alleged. Now we know that was a state attack with uh, with the two attackers per se, and it came out, the noose around the neck and the yelling of homophobic slurs and MAGA country and all this came out, and it happened a couple of days before I was about to do a podcast, and I was about to get. I'm not gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. At the time when it first happened, on the day it happened, I was gonna go on this tangent. Not only on my podcast, I was gonna release something on YouTube, on Instagram. Occasionally, you see me drop videos, 2 to 3, 4, 5 minutes if I really want to get something off my chest, sports wise, pop culture wise. I really was about to go all in on the situation and just go on this tangent, supporting Jussie Smollett. And something, for whatever reason, something just within my gut or my heart, whatever, something told me just, you know what, hang back for a week and let this thing develop. I'm not even thinking that this was even a possibility that he was making this up. And then things started to come out. Um, in the beginning, I was like, some of this may have happened, but he's not telling the entire truth. And then, the more and more I thought about it, I'm like, hold on. So, two people jump him, and they only beat him up to a point to where he still can drive himself to the hospital, and he's going without security, even though he's been receiving, or allegedly. Now we know that this is not true, and now we've come to find out these were lies. But at that point, we didn't know what it came out that he was receiving death threats leading up to uh, this staged attack. So I'm like, just it doesn't. Then got that at that point. I was like, I just don't believe it. Like I just don't. I just don't believe it. And of course, comes out. The cops do their due diligence. You see the text messages to the guys. He hires two Nigerian brothers, and they confess. And you have a guy in Jussie Smollett who, right now, it's that Snickers commercial. You want to get away, like I. Jussie Smollett should just go away for just a year. As far as I don't want to hear any interviews from him. I wouldn't forget about books. Forget about. He should say nothing. Nothing for at least a year. Just don't say anything, because to me, and you want to. I mean, the question you ask is, of course, why? Like people who were defending him were asking, well, why would he do this? Well, you do this beyond clout chasing. That's the popular phrase or whatever people want to say that. You do this because you know an empire that has a 3 month break. Empire has had this since they went full time after the 2015. They came out. Remember, they came out in, I want to say, winter of 2015 for that half season, and then after that they went full, started going full seasons. But seasons are different than regular full seasons. Regular full seasons on network shows are anywhere from 22 to 23 episodes. Their Empire has, I think, around 18 episodes. So they'll have this fall break where their last show is like a couple weeks before Christmas, December 8th or so, and then they'll take a break until March. That means if you're Jussie Smollett, no one's really checking for you for the better part of 2.5 to 3 months. No one. I've never yet to meet a person that cares about Jussie Smollett's music. That's saying, you know what, we're gonna get these Jussie Smollett tickets and go see him perform. And I'm not saying he's not a talented musician. He's not making money off it, but no one's. I don't think no one. I think for the most part that his music is a hustle, is a little side hustle. That is not. People know him for being Jamal off Empire. That's what he's known for. That's where he made his bones, as far as from that standpoint. So to me, I think this was him just wanting to stay relevant until they got back on the air, until the show started. And he's not a movie star, so he's not making movies like that. See, Taraji P. Henson and Terrence Howard, they're movie stars. Like it seems like Taraji P. Henson in every Empire break comes out with a movie, whether it's Hidden Figures, whether it's what did she come out with last year? That was just horrible. Um, the movie is so terrible. I definitely wanted Proud Mary, which was horrible. Hidden Figures was great. Now this year is what men want. So she has a pattern now, and smartly, it's very smart to have a movie be released in between the time of Empire's fall break and their spring premiere. Jussie Smollett's not a movie star. Doesn't have that luxury. Terrence Howard's a movie star. He does music and he does other things. Empire is big for him, but he has the ability to do other things in terms of keeping him relevant. So this was all about, to me, just him wanting to stay relevant. Wanting to stay relevant. And what's been a common theme of this podcast in regards to Robert, with what happened with Robert Kraft, even with Kyrie Irving not being satisfied, not greed, just pure greed, just not being satisfied or not being appreciative of the position that you're in. Like you have a starring role on one of the most popular shows on television. You've had that role for the better part now of 5 seasons, but that's not enough. It's not. You had a role that has made your music relevant. Like no one knew about you as a musician or cared about you as a musician before you started the role on Empire. So it's not being appreciative of what you have. It's wanting more attention, more followers, Twitter, Instagram, more. Just not being satisfied. Just greed. And as of right now, they're gonna write. He's been written out the last 2 episodes of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if episode 1, season 6, he's killed off. To be honest with you, it would not surprise me whatsoever. Like I really don't see a future for him with this show moving forward past this season. Like I don't see how you could be in the same on set and just look at him the same after a situation like this, because you try to use sexuality, racism to promote, to basically use it as a means to gain attention in your favor. And I'm telling you right now, the LGBT community, I cannot see them messing with him ever again. I just can't see them dealing with him. And we know Lee Daniels is gay. Again, I can't like you know, if you're a member of any organization that has any ties to the LGBT, I don't see like to me Jesse would be just non-existent. Like I can't deal with you no more. I can't whatever. Your word means nothing at this point. Your word is less than dirt. Don't come. I don't want to hear about you being depressed. I don't want to hear about if you have mental issues because that's the next thing. You come out. I was going through some this and I was taking some medication. Some he has a story that as we speak that he's concocting to try like create to try to have the masses feeling sorry for him. That's what's next. That's the next move. But I think his career. I frankly think his career is done. I just now we do live in a 24-hour news cycle. People forget quickly. We move on to the next thing. You saw today. Kraft, R. Kelly, so on. It'll be the next story. What's next? But for a guy that wasn't a big star to begin with, I frankly don't think he can recover from this, or think he will recover from this. So I just, it's one of those situations where it's just, you, I don't feel bad for him whatsoever. He put himself in this position, nobody to blame but himself. But it's just, it's just pure greed, and it's just not being grateful for what you do have, and not being grateful for the position that you're in. Like, he had written a letter that was, homophobic and hate speech. That didn't get enough attention, so he took the next step. And it really, it's really dangerous too, because and the police department was pissed off about this because they're spending time and resources and manpower focusing on something that is pure bullshit instead of focusing on criminal, one of the most violent cities in the country in terms of Chicago. I mean, the murder rate in Chicago we know this is off the charts. So instead of on murders and real shit that's going on, and focusing on this bullshit because you are not happy with yourself and you want more attention. So a couple of things I want to say about debate about baseball. Signed for 10 years, $300 million. Good for the Padres. We've knocked these small market teams for years for not spending money. For people have knocked them for cheating their fans and what have you. So the Padres go out. So to me, you can't criticize the Padres for giving Manny Machado $300 million. Machado is 26 years old. He's clearly one of the best players in the sport. They have a bunch of young talent. It is a move they can build around him. He's young enough to a point. He's young enough for them to develop that young talent, make some trades, and get good fast. We saw Houston. It doesn't take a long time for a team to turn it around in Major League Baseball. So good for him. Good for them. Good for the Padres. I think Bryce Harper will get a bigger deal. I think Bryce Harper will end up in Philadelphia. I think it's just a matter of time. This is a matter of crunching numbers. But he will get a bigger deal than Machado. Yankees did not need either one of these players. Like the Yankees the Yankees don't have a problem scoring runs. They need some more contact hitters. And you don't have to spend $300 million to find a quality guy that can put the bat on the ball. You just don't in 2019. So I don't blame the Yankees at all for not signing Machado, or for not signing Bryce Harper, which I don't think the Yankees will sign Bryce Harper. I know it's not official, and Bryce Harper hasn't signed anywhere, but I don't think that the Yankees will go after one Bryce Harper. So good for the Padres, though. They've been terrible for years. I think they'll be one of these teams that have a turnaround. They'll be a playoff contender. The fans will flock to see Machado without question. He's gonna put asses in the seats. So have zero problem with that move, and I frankly support it. I think it's good for baseball. I don't want to hear. One thing I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear about these players complaining about a lack of free agent signings. Baseball organizations have just gotten smarter. So they're not tossing around money the way they used to toss it around. It's not collusion. It's not anti-player. It's smart business. So I don't like this idea. I don't want to hear about. I don't want to hear from the players talking about baseball. All of a sudden is anti-player. It's not. These players have been getting paid forever in baseball. How many 10-year, 8-year, 9-year contracts have been given out on guys who are not in the prime of their careers, guys who are 30 and over? I mean, you give me a break. Baseball has had as many bad contracts as any sport out there of the four major sports. So I don't. The players have gotten well compensated for in terms of baseball. So we go through a free agency period, a year where organizations have gotten smart, and they choose to spend their money wisely. Can't knock it. Can't knock it at all. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Ril Dil Podcast. Telling it like it is, as with no apologies. As always, this is Surreal Gerald Quinn. Thanks for listening. Again, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Ril Dil Podcast. Have a great weekend. I'm out.